use it for good, not to cheat the system, because I know that there's a lot of concern about people. How do I know that you wrote this particular thing and you just didn't have AI do it for you and that sort of stuff? And really, even though they have like these things that are supposed to tell you whether it is or isn't AI, they're not always accurate.
Welcome to Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs, the podcast that shows you how to leverage the power of AI technology without wasting your time or selling your soul. Let's embrace making AI work for you. Hey, my human friend, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and today's guest, Tasha, is sharing some super awesome and actionable tips for using ChatGPT in your business. She also gives us her opinion about using ChatGPT for things like web development. And if AI is going to take our jobs, who knows? You'll have to hear from her. But I know you're going to love this conversation just as much as I did. So if you do, make sure that you share this with another business buddy who could also use to listen to it. And or share it on your Instagram stories and make sure that you tag me. I'm at Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs. If you tag me, I will be able to see it, reshare it, and just spread the love right back to you over there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. Hey, Tasha, thank you so much for coming on Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs. Lady, I'm so excited to bring you on the show.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Well, I did already introduce you just a little bit in the intro, but I'd love to hear from you. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you serve?
I'm Tasha Hussey. I am the Chief Turtle at Lavender Turtle. I have been in business about 6 years. I started it around 2018, and we offer reliable web support for small businesses. We specialize in WordPress, Squarespace, Shopify, Wix, just about whatever tools out there. It just depends on what our client wants. We specialize in, and we offer maintenance plans and just-in-time support or leave coverage or, whatever they need.
That's awesome and much needed in our entrepreneur industry for sure. And I always kind of like to just kick off these conversations by asking, how did you start dipping your toes into the AI world? What has that looked like for you?
I think I was sort of harassed by it by email. It was like one of those things where you start getting emails from different areas talking about these different AI tools. And so I was resistant to it for a while because I was like, I don't need AI. It's not something that I'm really into. But then one day I was like, I'm having a little bit of a brain fog and some writer's block. Maybe it could give me some inspiration. And so I signed up for ChatGPT, and then I asked that first question, like, I'm having writer's block. I need some ideas on this topic. And then it started generating things, and I was like hooked ever since.
I feel you. I was like totally hesitant / resistant at first. And then I was like, whatever, I'm going to try. And now I'm like a total nerd about it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
What are some of your favorite ways to use AI tools in your business now?
Oh man, my favorite way is to write emails. A lot of times when you are dealing with clients, you don't quite know the exact way to phrase things, and you want to, especially when it comes to a lot of technical terms, right? We have a lot of technical terms that we use. Me and my team know the language, but our clients don't. And so I want to make sure that whatever emails I'm sending out are very clear. So I write them in a way that I understand it, as the technical person. And then I'll ask ChatGPT, please reword it for clarity or in layman's terms so that my clients can understand what I'm saying. Because sometimes it's hard to make the switch from always saying the technical term to, trying to simplify it. So it's helped a lot with that. I've also used it a lot for like onboarding sequences. Like I asked it to give me an outline of an onboarding sequence, for a new client. How do I welcome my clients? And then it gave me like a list. And then from there, the juices start to flow and you can kind of flesh it out yourself, which has been really helpful.
Oh, totally. Oh my gosh. I love that you have been using it for like making your wording more basic as a technical person and then speaking to your clients and stuff. That's something that's so important. And it's something that I don't think we talk about a lot. Like at least on my podcast and stuff, we are very concerned about honing your brand of voice and personality and all that stuff. But like there's other ways that you can use ChatGPT like that too. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. I mean, you can always spice things up, once it doesn't necessarily nail it every time because it's very robotic. As a matter of fact, AI doesn't really have feelings. And so it doesn't take into account, the human element. And so if it produces something, it's usually on target, but then that might inspire me to add some of my quirkiness to it and then sort of flesh it out and send it on to the client.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that you also brought up exactly the give me the basics, give me the outline, allow that to spark my own inspiration. And, probably if you need, you can have ChatGPT help you fill in the blanks or whatever.
Right.
But I feel like a lot of people, when they're just starting out with these tools and or they're hearing about them and or what we're talking about usually in the business space using these tools, it's like get AI to write copy for you, to write social media captions, to do it all like perfectly from the beginning. But that's one of my favorite ways to use it too, is more so the outlining. I'll get started, I'll let it spark inspiration. And then, if I get stuck, I'll go back to it.
Right, exactly. And, now that I'm sort of revisiting the redesign of my website and the places where I get stuck the most is sort of describing the services. Like I know what I want to offer. I know the feeling I want my clients to have when they get the service. I know all these things, but the wording is what really trips me up. So I'll tell it, hey, give me an idea for, this type of service. How should I advertise it? And then it might pump out something and then that'll, go to the next conversation and say, okay, well, maybe I can add this keyword or add that keyword to it. But it's really great for idea generation for sure.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. And I love this seems to be a theme of this conversation too.
Mhm.
It's like using it to help take you out of your own head in a way or something, like it's really difficult a lot of times when you're in the middle of your offer and all your things to
Yeah.
be like, how do I describe this in a way
Right.
that's like enticing for my ideal customers? I
Right.
like using it for FAQs too.
Yes. Yes. I've done that too. That has really saved my bacon on a number of instances to really, 'cause sometimes I know that I can get pretty wordy, explaining things, and I really just need to kind of cut to the chase. And so I'll pose a question and say, hey, answer this question as if it were an FAQ. And then it produce sometimes the the answers are really long. Some of them, they're really short. And so we try to find like the happy medium, like, oh yeah, I knew the answer to this already. Like, but it gave me a different perspective on how to answer it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Have you been using ChatGPT or AI tools with like your client work at all or anything like that?
So I don't use it for client work because most of what we do is web development. And so with code, it either is or it isn't. It either works or it doesn't. There really isn't a lot of gray area. Now, there have been some times where we have came across some challenging things that we've never done before. And I've asked ChatGPT, what does this code mean? And what is this code doing? Because when you're looking at code that another developer wrote, sometimes it's really hard to read. And so I'll just copy and paste that snippet of code in and say, please explain this because I'm not sure it's doing what I'm thinking it's doing. And then it'll outline the steps and make it make sense, which sometimes it still doesn't make sense because
Oh my
but
gosh.
at least it tried its best to explain it, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense and then we just have to move on.
And it's best. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yes. Tell me if I don't know if you have any more to share about that, but I have heard some like web designers and developers somewhat complete. I've heard like two sides of the story. Either people are like, "Oh yeah, it's awesome for helping with
Mhm.
code," or they're like complaining about it and being like, "I don't think it knows what it's talking about." Or I interviewed one woman. She was like, "Yeah, I've heard on some like forums and stuff, web developers saying they're like." Threatening ChatGPT to like I forget exactly what it was. I think it was like giving it too long of an answer or not finishing an answer. Maybe
Right.
that was it, not finishing a code. So do you have any thoughts as far as that from a web development perspective?
I take it with a grain of salt. I don't rely on it to give me, code that I can actually use. If it was something very quick, like I just wanted to do some really quick display or HTML code to display a specific type of text, then maybe it will help me understand some different things. But I've already have the experience in development, so I really don't rely on ChatGPT for that. Now, if it's something that I've never come across, again, I would go in and say, hey, can you explain this to me? But yeah, I wouldn't rely on it to give me, usable usable code, because that could get you in a lot of trouble, right? If you go in and you say, hey, write me a program that does X, Y, and Z, and then it pumps out something, and then you deliver that, and who's to know what's in that code, or, especially if you don't understand it, I would definitely agree that, I don't know. I don't think so. I would definitely just reach out to another developer before I use AI for that.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I love the point you're bringing up as well, where it's like the whole conversation, this comes up a lot in these
Mhm.
conversations too, but the whole conversation of, is AI going to take our jobs? And my whole perspective from, I haven't ran into an industry yet where AI will take your job from you. And instead, I think it's like better to embrace, how can I use this as an expert, right? Because exactly what you said, whether it's a copywriter, whether it's a web developer, if someone who doesn't already have that expertise, like if someone tries to use
Mhm.
ChatGPT for that, it's not going to be the
Mm-mm.
same, and or it might like get you in
Right.
trouble, like you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, and I've thought about this too, because a lot of people have asked this question. If AI can do what you're doing, why do I need you? And I say to that, AI cannot do what I do, right? There's a certain oomph and essence that you bring to everything that you do. There's something very special about the way you do things and how you do those things. And I always tell people that, no, you can't be me and I can't be you, right? We can do the same job and have the same responsibilities and the same task, but we both perform them at different levels and we both perform them in different ways. You bring a certain level of creativity to your role, and I do the same. So the problem is that when people think that AI is a replacement for a human being, it's just not the case, because human beings are needed to actually program the AI. And AI will only do what it's told. It doesn't just randomly start spitting out code and sending it to you and say, here, give this to your client, or send this email. So I think that AI is only as good as the people who have created it. And so I am not concerned that I'm going to be replaced by AI or be replaced by a script. It may automate some of the mundane tasks that I perform, and it may free up time for me to focus on things that I really want to do. But as far as, being afraid that AI is going to replace us, no, it's not going to happen. They might get more advanced, yes. But, I'm not concerned that they're going to replace me, because at the end of the day, there's a human element to everything that we do. And people love connection. And AI just does not provide that connection that human beings ultimately want.
Have you been feeling frustrated trying to get ChatGPT to sound like you? You know this is an awesome tool you can use for so many things in your business, but you're tired of wasting time going back and forth only to end up with generic copy that sounds like a robot wrote it. Our new brand persona for ChatGPT mini course will help you hone your brand's unique voice with the help of ChatGPT, so you can get ChatGPT to dish up content ideas that are perfect for your brand and write copy that sounds just like you. With this quick, easy, and actionable mini course, we'll walk you through the process of training ChatGPT for your brand. So in less than an hour, you can turn ChatGPT into your amazing new assistant, content creator, copywriter, brainstormer at a minuscule fraction of the cost. So why wait? Sign up for our brand persona for ChatGPT mini course right now at AuthenticAIForEntrepreneurs.com/mini course. And in less than an hour, we'll get your ChatGPT to sound just like your brand and work authentically for your business. Yeah, so true. I was just like in my head thinking, oh man, if I would be nervous to like try to mess with my website with ChatGPT, like there's a comfort
Right.
level too, I'm sure, that comes with your job of like having someone, I'm not gonna mess with my website. I'm not gonna mess with like any of my email
Right.
things, like the domain stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I
Right.
would much rather have a human. I can like go back and ask the questions and be like, is this correct? I don't want to screw everything up, you know?
And like you said, it's about time that we embrace it, because when you go and ask ChatGPT a specific question, you really would have to have the experience to know whether or not the information it's giving you is correct or accurate, or even along the lines of what you're looking for. I couldn't all of a sudden call myself a lawyer and start looking up cases through ChatGPT and call myself, an attorney, or I want to represent you and all these things. Like, I would have to have some foundational knowledge in order to know if it's really accurate. And that's why it always tells you take it with a grain of salt. Like, it's going to be wrong sometimes, and that's okay. But, don't use it as like, the end all be all.
Oh, totally. And it's hilarious you brought that up. There is, I don't know if you know, there was that case of
Yes.
the lawyer trying to,
Yes, the
and we're
lawyer.
like, so even the experts get it, use these tools wrong
He
sometimes.
was probably making
But
a killing. He was just pumping out stuff left and right. Oh yeah, I'll do this for you. And then, you
oh,
just see
yeah.
him, just typing away at night and doing all his work, and everybody's wondering, oh gosh, Bob is so fast. What does he do it?
Superhuman.
And he's probably around telling everybody, oh, it's Red Bull.
Red Bull. Oh my God. I'm imagining ChatGPT gives me wings
Right,
commercials and
exactly.
stuff. Oh my goodness. I love that. So is there any like quick tips that you
Mhm.
have to share, anything like that when it comes to this?
Yeah, I would say treat ChatGPT or AI in general, like a personal assistant that's always available.
Hmm.
That, like a wealthy assistant, that has unlimited funds and will work as much or as little as they like. And all you have to do is just like pick up the keyboard and give them a little chat. And so when you're talking to AI, like for example, ChatGPT, when you start a chat or a session, it remembers the conversation. So you don't have to keep giving the same context over and over. So what I do is I started off, trying to perfectly craft the message that I wanted or the direction I wanted to give, when in actuality, grammar, spelling, and complete sentences don't matter. I have asked it all kinds of ways. Sometimes I just need an answer. And I'm like, what is blah, 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 with no punctuation, no capitalization, no anything. And it still gives me the answer. So that takes the stress off of, overthinking what it is that you want to ask AI to do for you. So if you remove that requirement that this is not an essay or an English class, like nobody's watching you, ask these, or give these directives. So you can take that out and just ask it just like you would a friend in whatever dialect you used, or, little metaphors that you use or whatever. The other thing I would say is that as you get your responses, you can refine those responses. So if you're not completely satisfied with what it said, you can go back and say, hey, I didn't like what you said. Can you clean it up a little bit or say it a little nicer, or add this particular keyword into it in the description, or put it in this point of view, or say it from this perspective, and it'll continue to refine it until you're satisfied with it. So that was another thing. And then the other thing I would say is you can use it for organization, project management, task management. So if you're working on a project and you want to get an outline of how this project flow is supposed to go, or if you want to create an SOP, that's the way to go. So especially if you're working internally on a team and you need to train someone else to do what you're doing, a specific task, you know how to do it, but it's really difficult to start putting it down on paper. So you could ask it to create an SOP for a specific task, and then you flesh it out, and then you can share it internally with the team. So that saves a lot of
Yeah.
time in that regard. And I use that quite a bit because, I already know the process in and out, but I need to get it done. So ChatGPT will help me sort of get my thoughts together, and then I can go in and correct it in the spaces that are unique to my business.
Yeah. Oh, I love that specific example, the SOPs too, because I feel like every time I interview someone new, like a new interesting way is brought up that's like, oh yeah, of course we
Yeah,
could
of
use it for
course.
that,
Yeah.
you know? And I feel like too, a lot of times people do really think about the outward content, you know, and that's what they're all concerned about and all the different stuff, which I love, you know, because I geek out about trying to hone your brand voice with ChatGPT and stuff like that. But like there's so many back end things that it can use that you can use it for that are so freaking
So
helpful.
many. I mean, I've asked it to create a content calendar, like a generic schedule. I've asked it to create me a business calendar of all the different due dates that we have throughout the year. I've asked it to do like, task list for a very specific thing or blog title ideas or hundreds, if not thousands of requests. I think at this point,
Totally.
ChatGPT is like sick of me.
Oh my gosh, lady, I interviewed another awesome ChatGPT lady too, and
Mhm.
she was saying I was cracking up because I think I use it a lot. You think you use it a
Right,
lot, and she was like, I was running out of messages and requests for my pro account, so I made two pros accounts, but then I ended up making a Teams account so that I could have and she was like, because I could send it like 150 messages in an hour and stuff, and I was
right.
like, okay, cool. Yeah, like we're all like
Yes,
however much we use it is
right.
great. But yeah, I think another thing that a lot of people don't realize too is that it can give you its responses in different formats, such as creating a chart or a table or something like that for the content calendars and whatnot. Like there's like all these there's possibilities that we don't even
So
think of
many.
until we hear them, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. And you know what is also interesting that I've used it for is to summarize data. So sometimes I'll have a lot of information that I need to sift through and I'll just pop it into ChatGPT, please summarize this, especially with meeting notes and that kind of stuff. If I'm taking a training or something like that and I have a resource, I'll say, hey, can you summarize this? Give me the highlights. And then I'll take the highlights and send it back to the client and say, here's what we talked about. I mean, it's the same thing that Otter.ai uses when it records your conversations, right? But if you're on a free plan, then you could use something like your notes app on iPhone and it'll record or transcribe it. And then you can take those notes and pop it into ChatGPT and say, please outline this for me. And so that it makes sense. And that really helps a lot too. And on top of that, I can ask it to pull out the action items. Any action items that we mentioned throughout the meeting, you can pull those out and put those in a separate area. So that's another good way to do it as well. But summarizing data was really a cool experience too, because I just popped in like a bunch of numbers from a spreadsheet and it puts it in like plain text or whatever. And it went through and summarized it. It was like, oh, you've got this here and you've got an average of that there. And I was like, oh, that's really impressive. And then I went back to double check it in, Excel. Some things were off, but a lot of them were on target. So, yeah, so many different ways you can use it.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I know that's one of my favorite ways to use it too with like client coaching calls or strategy sessions and stuff like that. Like I'll take the transcript and throw it into ChatGPT and have it do all the summaries and action
Hmm.
items and analyze and create to-do lists for both of us,
Right.
and I love it too, not just because of that, because literally like that would take me like an hour after each call to be able to throw that together myself, even though it's like all there, the
Right.
information is there. It's like getting it out and
Right.
doing it. So that's so helpful. But I also love it too because honestly, I used to just be taking notes the whole time I would do coaching calls, just
Right.
taking notes, taking notes, taking notes. And ChatGPT has allowed me to like be more in the moment with my clients and not have to slow things down by typing and I love just being able to focus on them knowing that I have the transcript and ChatGPT and all that different stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's so wonderful. I mean it's such a time save from having to do all that writing. Like everything I do is writing, typing all day, every day. It's like constant emails, and follow-ups and this and this and this and so it just gives you a break from having to do all this so you can actually focus on the real work that you're doing. That's why it's really important to have that extra support, whether it's in the form of Chat GPT summarizing things or having a virtual assistant or whatever. But it's really important to have that additional support so you can move the needle. Because imagine if you had to do it manually all the time, like that's all you would be doing is summarizing meeting notes, right?
My
All day
whole
long.
life. Oh my gosh, totally. I know. Yeah, I love, love, love using it for those tasks and stuff. Is there any like funny quirks that you've like pressure points that you run into, or like mistakes that you have, like quote unquote mistakes that you've made with ChatGPT, or anything to share with us?
So I think the probably one of the biggest lessons that I've learned was, use it for good, not to cheat the system, because I know that there's a lot of concern about people. How do I know that you wrote this particular thing and you just didn't have AI do it for you and that sort of stuff? And really, even though they have like these things that are supposed to tell you whether it is or isn't AI, they're not always accurate, because sometimes, if I put my writing in and it's like, oh, it's 10% AI. And I'm like, wait a second, no, I promise you it wasn't. So I would say that the best thing is that, not to use it for nefarious purposes, but to use it to inspire you to do greater things, right? Because it can't replace your knowledge. It doesn't know what you know. It only knows what it's been told. And so you have to take that information, and say, how can I best leverage this to improve who I am and not it be a replacement for what I do? Because you don't ever want a client to feel like you're not really putting in the effort in their project or whatever it is. And it just becomes more robotic type of thing. And so definitely use it to enhance who you are, but not to replace who you are.
Oh, that is such a good reminder. And yeah, I know it's like kind of crazy. I've heard from several guests, that either their client thinks that it was like made by AI, or like they use one of those tools and they're like, it says it's AI, but it's not. And so like there's all these different things. And it's really just, yeah, finding the truth of who you are, using it for good, getting comfortable with the way that you use it and
Right.
whatnot. I was laughing too because my mom at one point, she is a teacher in a middle school, and she was like telling me the other day, she's like, yeah, one of the kids got in trouble for using AI. And I told her, I was like, well, I have interviewed people who, these things say it's made by AI and not. And she's like, well, for a sixth grader, it was really easy to tell, like one paragraph. I was like, oh,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, but it's just things to keep in mind and think
Right.
about as we start to use these tools. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that things are evolving and stuff, but all that.
Yes.
But thank you so much
Yeah,
for
you're
coming on
welcome.
here. Is there anything else that you want to share with my audience before we get the socials and the website and all that?
No, I think just, if you're on the fence about using AI, give it a try and see how it goes. I mean, you can start as simple as just asking it to create a task list for cleaning your kitchen or doing a deep clean, something super simple that won't like, stress you out or feel like you're, cheating on the business by using it. Just, have fun with it. It could even create a game for you to play or tell a joke or something like that. So just have fun with it. And then it'll eventually inspire you to do other things.
Yeah, ChatGPT dad jokes, man.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I sometimes I
Hilarious.
have it if I'm like in a bad mood and I just want to laugh, I'll ask it to write a really mean email. Just so I can see
Oh,
what it would do. But I'll say write a really mean email to a very condescending client, but say it professionally type of thing. And then it'll pump out this email and it's just like, what? That was really mean. But it
oh.
was so professional. It was like, oh, that's chef's kiss. Or I'll say write an email, but in the voice of Myra from Schitt's Creek. And then it pumps out these messages. And so you can make it sound like whoever you want, like their whole style of things, which is pretty funny.
Oh, I love that so much. I'm gonna do that. I also feel like that is like now has to be one of those regular posts for authentic AI social
Right.
media or something, just like hilarious emails or
Yes.
whatever.
So
Oh,
fun.
I love that. Okay, well, thank you so much. Can you please share how everyone can connect with you and find out more about you? Because I know they'll want to.
Yeah. So you can find us on Instagram at Lavender Turtle or on Facebook at /Lavender Turtle Creative. Or you can send me an email at Tasha at lavenderturtle.com or go to lavenderturtle.com to the website and
Wonderful.
stay tuned
Pretty
for the
easy.
updated version of it.
Oh, yay. Oh, yay. Awesome. And we'll link everything below. But thank you so much.
Thank you. It was fun.
How great was Tasha, you guys? I absolutely loved her idea of using it for SOPs and all that different stuff. I know you love this conversation just as much as I did. So if you did, make sure that you give us both a follow. I am at Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs on Instagram. And hey, while you're at it, why not leave us 5 stars or a friendly review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to it on? Because that really does help us to continue growing our Authentic AI community and spreading our Authentic AI word. All right, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs, my friend. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your shows.